There's a particular kind of silence in a well-prepared home. Not the silence of emptiness. Not the quiet of neglect. It's the silence of a pantry stocked 3 months deep. A root cellar that smells of damp earth and beeswax and dried herbs. A barn where nothing rusts because everything gets used. You probably haven't felt that silence in a while. Most of us haven't. Instead, we live inside a different kind of quiet, the quiet of a refrigerator hum and a monthly grocery app and a power grid we trust completely without ever once asking why. 3 days without power, most American households begin to fail. Not dramatically, quietly. The ice melts. The medication warms. The phone goes dark. The well pump stops. And then it gets very loud very fast. What I want to talk about today isn't fear. It's not catastrophe preparation in the bunker and rifle sense. It's something older. Something that certain communities in rural Ohio, in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in the hill country of Indiana, never stopped practicing. They just kept shopping differently. If you've ever been to a Costco in Holmes County, Ohio, which is home to the largest Amish population in the world, you've probably seen something that stops you cold. A horse-drawn buggy in the parking lot. It seems like a visual joke. The most modern of bulk retailers. The most traditional of American communities. Standing quietly together in the early morning light. But if you watch what goes into those buggies, not with judgment, just with curiosity, something interesting begins to emerge. These aren't impulse purchases. These aren't entertainment subscriptions on a pallet. These are items selected with a logic that is, once you understand it, almost impossible to argue with. A logic built on 300 years of practical experience with exactly the kind of disruption modern people treat as unthinkable. What follows isn't a list for doomsday. It's a list for durability. And the quiet truth is, some of these items, in the quantities required for genuine preparedness, are becoming harder to find. Not because anyone has banned them, but because the regulatory, logistical, and commercial pressures of modern retail increasingly deprioritize things that make households genuinely self-sufficient. The economic incentives favor repurchase, refill, dependency. These 11 items run in the opposite direction entirely. Item 1. Food-grade diatomaceous ARTH. Walk into any serious Amish homestead pantry, and you'll find a white powder in a sealed bucket near the grain storage. It doesn't look like much. Soft, almost silky to the touch. Leaves a faint chalky residue on your fingertips. It's diatomaceous earth, and it's one of the oldest food preservation tools in continuous agricultural use. Chemically, it's the fossilized remains of microscopic aquatic organisms called diatoms, creatures that lived and died in ancient freshwater lakes, whose silica shells compressed over millennia into one of the most useful substances a farming household can own. Under a microscope, each particle looks like a shattered crystal, razor-edged and porous. To an insect, contact with food-grade diatomaceous earth is catastrophic. It destroys the waxy outer coating of their exoskeleton. They desiccate, they die, without any chemical residue, without toxicity to mammals in food-grade concentrations. The USDA has documented its use in grain storage systems going back to the early part of the last century. Land-grant university extension programs, Penn State, Ohio State, Purdue, all maintain literature on its efficacy for stored grain pest management. Amish households use it in flour bins, in oat containers, along pantry baseboards, sometimes dusted lightly in bedding storage. A 50-pound bag at Costco runs between $20 and $30. That's enough to protect several years of stored grain. The knowledge didn't disappear because it stopped working. It faded because chemical pesticides created a service industry. An industry that charges you by the visit. An industry with no interest in a $50 one-time solution. Item 2. Pure beeswax blocks. There's a smell in old woodworking shops, dry and faintly sweet, somewhere between honey and warm wood shavings, that most people can't immediately identify. That's beeswax. For centuries, it was the primary lubricant, sealant, wood preservative, and waterproofing agent in rural households. It sealed cheese. It waterproofed leather. It lubricated saw blades and drawer slides and thread for hand-stitching heavy canvas. Amish craftsmen still rub solid beeswax on hand saw blades before cutting green wood. The teeth move through timber the way a hot knife moves through cold butter. Smooth, quiet, effortless. Modern synthetic lubricants are extraordinary products. But they're also products you need to rebuy. Products tied to petroleum supply chains. Products that can be unavailable or unaffordable or simply out of stock. A 1-pound block of food-grade beeswax, purchased in bulk at Costco or through Costco-adjacent wholesale channels, costs approximately $10 to $15. It will last years. It will seal canning jar lids. It will preserve cast iron. It will waterproof boots. It will condition leather harness so thoroughly the leather outlasts the owner. The Romans used beeswax to seal military supply containers. The Swiss alpine builders of the 16th century used it on timber joints to prevent moisture infiltration. World War II field manuals for the Pacific Theater recommended beeswax for maintaining leather and canvas equipment in high-humidity jungle conditions. Somewhere along the way, we decided buying a different product for each function was progress. Item 3. White rice. 50-pound bags. This one seems obvious, until you consider the specificity of how it's stored. Amish households don't just buy bulk rice. They seal it, systematically, in food-grade 5-gallon buckets with gamma seal lids, with oxygen absorbers, in a cool corner of a root cellar or basement where the temperature holds between 50 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. White rice stored properly this way has a documented shelf life of 25 to 30 years. Not 5 years, not 10, 30 years. That data comes not from survivalist forums, but from a 1998 study conducted by researchers at Brigham Young University's Food Science program, later referenced in USDA storage guidelines. When stored in sealed containers with oxygen absorbers at stable cool temperatures, white rice retains nutritional value and taste integrity for decades. A 50-pound bag of long-grain white rice at Costco costs roughly $25. $25 for a food supply that, for one person eating modestly, represents roughly 50 days of caloric staple. Stored in 3 or 4 sealed buckets in your basement, you would barely notice it was there, until the day you needed it. Item 4. Apple cider vinegar. Unfiltered. With Mother, the gallon jugs of filtered, clear white vinegar have their place. But Amish households keep a different kind. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Cloudy, amber-colored, with the soft sediment of live bacterial cultures drifting at the bottom of the jug. The Mother. In Amish communities, this is a household staple with documented utility across multiple categories simultaneously. It's a food preservative, a surface cleaner, a livestock health supplement, a wood surface conditioner, a soil pH adjuster for garden beds, a hair rinse that removes mineral buildup from well water. Modern science has substantiated some of what traditional communities knew empirically. Acetic acid, the primary component, has genuine antimicrobial properties. Research published through the National Institutes of Health database has confirmed its effectiveness against several common pathogenic bacteria at sufficient concentrations. Costco sells 1-gallon jugs of Bragg's organic unfiltered apple cider vinegar in multi-packs. The cost per gallon in bulk runs about $5 to $6. There's no single-function modern product that does everything this does at that price point, which is precisely why you've never seen an advertisement for it. Item 5. Himalayan pink salt. Bulk bags. Salt is the oldest preservative in recorded human history. Before refrigeration, before canning, before synthetic preservatives found in 3/4 of the packaged food in your pantry right now, there was salt. Salt-cured meat will remain edible for months without refrigeration. Salt-brined vegetables, properly lactofermented, will not only remain edible, but become more nutritionally complex than the fresh original. The beneficial bacterial cultures produced during lactofermentation are the same ones modern manufacturers sell back to you in expensive probiotic supplements. Amish households understand salt as infrastructure. They don't buy the small cylindrical canister. They buy 25 and 50-pound bags. At Costco, a 10-pound bag of Himalayan pink salt runs approximately $12. The difference between pink Himalayan and standard iodized table salt is largely mineral composition, trace elements that are stripped in industrial refining. For long-term food preservation purposes, both function well. But the Himalayan variant, in bulk, offers a shelf life of essentially unlimited. Salt does not expire. It will outlast your house. Buy accordingly. Item 6. Coconut oil refined. In bulk. Refined coconut oil. Not the fragrant virgin kind, though that has its uses. The refined variety, purchased in large tubs, has a smoke point of approximately 400 to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, a shelf life of 2 or more years without refrigeration, and a versatility that extends far beyond cooking. Amish households use it as a wood conditioner for cutting boards and wooden utensils, as a preliminary rust preventative on cast iron cookware, as a base for homemade salves, lip balms, and leather conditioning treatments. During the early 20th century, refined plant-based oils were the primary industrial lubricants across most agricultural machinery in rural America. The USDA agricultural extension literature from the 1920s through 1940s is replete with references to coconut and lard-based preparations used to maintain equipment in the field when commercial petroleum lubricants were unavailable or unaffordable. A 54-ounce tub at Costco runs about $14. 3 or 4 of those, rotated properly, represent a 2-year supply for a household that cooks primarily from scratch. The caloric density alone, approximately 120 calories per tablespoon, makes it a serious long-term energy storage option. Item 7. Oxygen absorbers and mylar bags. These are the invisible infrastructure of Amish food storage. Most people have never held an oxygen absorber. It's a small paper packet, the size of a sugar packet, containing iron powder that reacts with atmospheric oxygen and removes it from a sealed container. In a sealed mylar bag with an oxygen absorber, the effective shelf life of dry goods increases by a factor of 3 to 5 times compared to open storage. Beans, rice, flour, powdered milk, lentils, pasta. All of them become decade stable with this technology that was not invented yesterday. Oxygen-free preservation methodology was documented by food scientists at the University of Georgia's Cooperative Extension as early as the 1970s, building on food packaging research originally developed for military field rations. Amish households typically purchase oxygen absorbers and mylar bags through wholesale channels, sometimes Costco, sometimes cooperative buying groups, sometimes direct from agricultural supply companies. 300 cubic centimeters oxygen absorbers cost approximately $12 to $15. Mylar bags in bulk are similarly inexpensive. For the cost of a single restaurant dinner, you can convert 100 pounds of staple food into a supply that will still be usable when your children are in high school. Item 8. Castile soap. Dr. Bronner's or equivalent, gallon size. Walk through any modern grocery store cleaning aisle and count the products. Dish soap, laundry detergent, multi-surface cleaner, bathroom scrub, floor wash, hand soap, body wash, shampoo, shaving cream, a dozen separate products, a dozen separate purchases, a dozen separate dependencies on a supply chain that performed almost perfectly, until it didn't. In March 2020, most of those shelves went empty within 72 hours. Amish households typically stock a different kind of product. A concentrated, pure Castile soap, olive oil and lye-based, no synthetic surfactants, diluted to different concentrations serves as all of the above. Dr. Bronner's, sold in gallon jugs at Costco for approximately $30 to $35, has been produced essentially unchanged since 1858. A single gallon, diluted appropriately, yields the equivalent of dozens of bottles of specialized cleaners. The concentration ratios for different applications. Dish soap, 1 part Castile to 10 parts water. Laundry, a 1/4 cup per load in standard machines. All-purpose cleaner, 1 tablespoon per quart of water. Shampoo, diluted 1:3 with water. A gallon lasts a prepared household between 6 months and a year. The incentive for modern manufacturers is not to tell you this. The incentive is to sell you 12 separate bottles. Item 9. Activated charcoal, food grade, bulk. This one requires a moment. Not because it's complicated, because most people haven't thought about water purification outside of a Brita filter. Activated charcoal, wood or coconut shell-based, heated to extreme temperatures in low oxygen conditions to create a porous internal structure with extraordinary surface area, has been used in water filtration for over 200 years. The first documented municipal water filtration system using charcoal was implemented in Scotland in 1804. The US military used activated charcoal filtration in the field throughout both world wars. Modern municipal water treatment facilities still use it as a primary filtration medium. A single gram of activated charcoal has an internal surface area, when unfolded at the molecular level, of approximately 500 square meters. It adsorbs, meaning it chemically binds to its surface, chlorine, pesticide residues, some heavy metals, and various volatile organic compounds. Food-grade activated charcoal in bulk is available through wholesale channels at approximately $10 to $15 per pound. Amish households use it not just for filtration but as a livestock digestive aid, a practice documented extensively in agricultural extension literature as far back as the 1940s. Note: activated charcoal is not a complete water purification solution. It does not remove biological pathogens. It works best as a pre- or post-filter in a layered system, combined with either boiling or UV treatment. Limitations honestly acknowledged. Item 10. Coleman fuel/white gas. Case quantities. Most people think of camp fuel as a camping product. Amish communities think of it as infrastructure. White gas, highly refined, clean-burning, minimal residue, was the standard fuel for portable stoves, pressure lanterns, and small tools in rural American households from the 1920s through the 1960s. Before propane became dominant, before natural gas lines reached every rural county, it burns clean, extremely hot, with no pilot light dependency, no electronic ignition, no utility connection required. Properly stored in sealed metal containers in a cool, dry environment below 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Away from direct sunlight, Coleman fuel maintains usable quality for 5 to 7 years. A case of 4 1-gallon cans at Costco runs approximately $60 to $70. That's 4 to 6 months of cooking fuel for a household that uses it as a supplementary cooking source. In a county that loses power for 2 weeks, as portions of rural Kentucky, West Virginia, and upstate New York have multiple times in recent years following ice storms, that cache of clean-burning fuel is the difference between hot food and cold discomfort. The World War II-era military logistics manuals called white gas the universal field fuel. That characterization was grounded in exactly this kind of practical durability. Item 11. Pure lanolin, pharmaceutical grade, bulk. The last item on this list is the one people find most surprising. Lanolin, rendered from raw wool during processing, a byproduct of the textile industry that most people under 40 have never directly encountered. It is one of the most effective natural skin barrier compounds ever documented. Its molecular structure is remarkably similar to human sebum, the skin's own protective oil, which is why it absorbs without residue, without clogging pores, and without the waxy surface feel of petroleum-based alternatives. Pharmaceutical-grade lanolin is the primary active ingredient in several premium hand treatment products retailing at $20 and $30 per small tube. In bulk, purchased through wholesale channels in 16-ounce or larger containers, the cost drops to approximately $15 to $20 per pound. Amish communities use it for cracked work hands, for nursing mothers, for livestock, particularly for treating cracked teats on dairy cows, a practice documented in veterinary extension literature since at least the 1880s, for waterproofing wool outer garments before winter field work. A community that works with their hands year-round, outdoors in cold and wet conditions, has no tolerance for skin that fails at its job. Lanolin doesn't fail. There's a particular kind of quiet that comes with genuine preparedness. Not the anxious, coiled quiet of someone waiting for disaster. Something older, slower. The quiet of a person who has thought carefully about what a household actually needs to function, independently, durably, across seasons, and then gone and provided it. Your grandfather probably understood most of what I've described tonight. Not because he was paranoid, not because he distrusted modern life, but because within living memory, the systems that now invisibly support daily existence were new, or unavailable, or unreliable, or simply hadn't reached his county yet. He knew what the house needed because he'd had to learn it. We didn't inherit that knowledge, not because anyone hid it from us, but because the systems that replaced it were so effective, so seamless, so consistently available, until the moments when they weren't, that the old knowledge felt unnecessary. It became quiet, not gone, quiet. The Amish communities that walk into Costco with their lists aren't living in the past. They're simply doing something the rest of us have largely stopped doing. They're maintaining a household the way you maintain a vehicle, not running it to zero and hoping the road is smooth, but keeping reserves, knowing the system, understanding the components. A 50-pound bag of rice and a 10-pound block of salt and a gallon of Castile soap and a case of camp fuel don't represent fear. They represent the quiet confidence of a household that will still be functioning 3 months from now regardless of what the supply chain decides to do. That confidence is worth something. It used to be ordinary. There's one more thing worth considering. Most of the items on this list share a quiet characteristic that only becomes visible when you look at them as a system. They're non-perishable, or extremely long shelf life. They're multifunctional. They're low-cost in bulk. And almost none of them are prominently marketed. There's a reason for that last part. Products that last decades and perform a dozen functions simultaneously don't generate the kind of recurring revenue that retail economies depend on. The incentives favor the short shelf life, the single function, the subscription refill, not because anyone decided to weaken household resilience, but because the system quite naturally rewards dependency. What else have we quietly stopped stocking? What other systems for water, for heat, for medicine, for soil did ordinary households once understand and maintain independently that have since migrated entirely to professional services and monthly bills? That question, it turns out, has a very long answer. We'll get to it,